Okay. Kijk hoor. Zo. We are the 99%. We are the 99%. I was standing on Zuccotti Park together with a lot of other people, strangers, and the tall shadows of tall Wall Street buildings were cooling us from the late September sun, 2011. And while I was standing there, it was so strange to realize that it is the 99% that holds the least power. So even though in percentage they are considered a majority, in reality and experience they are a minority. Our relationship with numbers is a strange one. We live, for example, in a more safe society than ever, but it seems when you do social research that people feel extremely anxious. Or what about women? I mean, they should at least make up for half of the population, but are often, and in many places, considered a minority. Numbers, therefore, never are enough to explain the world. The facts can't grasp reality. I can tell you about that day on Occupy Wall Street. I can tell you the temperature, how many people were there, how many cops were out. I can explain to you what happens in a small space when a lot of people are gathered in a small space, but it won't really capture or convey the actual experience. It won't explain how inspiring it was. It won't explain how I felt things could be different. I drew my body out of the ordinary, out of sitting down, reading in a library, into the open air amongst the protesters, their energy. And the physical confrontation with something different opened my mind. I realized that in order to create a better world or a more just society, we need to experience opportunity and possibility. We only vividly experience when something out of the ordinary happens, because you don't experience it when you're washing your hands underneath of a running tap after using the bathroom, but you would experience it if you'd stand underneath of a waterfall. A real experience is always a little bit uncomfortable and insecure, but refreshing. Awakening or even enlightenment might sound very spiritual, but it only requires a change of habit, a break with the ordinary. Let me give you a very small example. 2 years ago, I tore my ACL, which is the ligament that basically in your knee, that basically holds your upper and your lower leg together. And I never got a surgery on it. I guess I was waiting for the 3D printed knee or something. But I was training with a physical therapist for months and months in order to strengthen my muscle in such a way that my upper leg would be able to hold my lower leg. And this is going fine for 2 years, but sometimes when I'm running, there is this split second, this split moment in which I think my knee will just snap like that. And I guess it's a joint disposition or something like that. And I know I never sag or fall through it, but nonetheless, there's this split second that the anxiety takes over. I don't know what will happen. I don't know the past. I forget about my months of rehabs, and I don't know what will happen next. And this split second, I will call the confrontation with possibility. Because the usual working of the body, the trust I gained from years of moving freely, is all of a sudden shaken up. And I love this moment. I love this confrontation with possibility because it reminds me how well my body usually works and how I'm able to move free. But I also hate this moment. I hate this confrontation with possibility because it makes me insecure. The ingrained patterns that my body is used to might change or decay. And this split second, this confrontation with possibility, would be maybe what the Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard would call freedom. He says there is no freedom without angst or fear. And he tries to describe the experience of freedom when you're standing on a cliff or on the edge of a tall Wall Street building and you're looking down into the depth. You experience anxiety or possibility because you can jump or back off, but that at that moment, the anxiety takes over nonetheless. Rational calculation, past or future, disappear. It's just that moment, and everything is possible. Nothing is fixed, and everything can change. So this is basically an excluded moment in which we separate or dissociate with the usual and normal boundaries of life. We are presented with a break from the ordinary or everyday life rhythms, ingrained patterns by which we move, and habits that are never questioned and therefore are almost taken up as a law of nature. So how did I tear my ACL? I was playing rugby. I play rugby. And when I went to the US that summer and fall 2011, with the start of Occupy Wall Street, I started playing with the New York rugby team. There you go. And the team was very, very welcoming. But they did call me the 1%. And as I make my money with art, it was not because I was rich, or am rich. But I was the only one on the team who wasn't gay. So being their only straight person, I was their 1%. And indeed, I felt like the odd one out. I mean, I could talk to them about sex and relationships and everything, but I was still missing a certain experience. That's what I felt, at least. And I was missing a certain discourse. And at one point, I really, really wished I were gay. And I'm sure that if I had stayed longer, I would have turned lesbian, because I just really wanted to belong. And I think that's what often happens with identity, that you rather close the gap, the way people view you and the way you think you really are. You just rather move towards the way people think you might, should, or you should be. So this is basically what I think is that this experience stresses and underlines that what we consider a majority is not so much a natural norm, but is always decided by environment and context. And it also taught me how hard it is to just not give a shit and not fit in. Democratic society often tells us, just be free, be whoever you want to be. But I think it's very hard for us to not care about stereotypes and stigmas and to just ignore them. And so being the 1% in the rugby team felt like a turnaround world. And I noticed how enlightening it can be when everything is switched and rambled around. I think that in shifting positions, whether it's an individual plunged into a group or a group that confronts a society with a new identity, I think that it is in these shifting positions we get to know the securities that we naturally hold on to. It is also this confrontation, this deviation from the norm, that in society at least we seem to come closest to that moment, or that confrontation with possibility that Kierkegaard calls freedom. It is the moment we stand on the edge of a cliff. However, what I also learned from playing rugby is the importance of game, of play. Because when I play rugby, I reach a certain state of freedom that I don't usually encounter in daily life. And I think this is a result of the fact that I can scream, I can growl, I can tackle, I can grab someone's ass. And I'm focused. I only have one goal at a time: to pass, to hit, to tackle, or best to score. The purpose of the game is only the game itself, and therefore I can surrender to having only one goal, one responsibility, and one purpose. Namely, being the best rugby player I can possibly be at that moment, and being the best teammate I can possibly be. Whether I succeed is not set or fixed, and it's not just my responsibility. It's not just whether I succeed, but whether we, as a team. Now, I'm not saying you should all play rugby, but everyone in here who considers themselves a human being should play. The Dutch philosopher Johan Huizinga considers play the most important characteristic of human beings and also the fundament of society. Hence he wrote Homo ludens, playing men, and this was in 1938. We discover and define culture by playing, but the fun part is lost as soon as it turns into politics, because then the free experimental space is lost, and the purpose of the game is no longer just the game itself. There's too much to be gained. Play has defined rules and outlines. Play is only for a limited time, and this helps us to surrender and dare try new things. You won't have to worry that the way you act at the moment is who you fully are. The role you try is not necessarily you. It's what you could be. As opposed to society, where everything we do seems to be telling of who we are, what our core existence is, and what our lives will look like further on. Play is a collective act. In order for you to be satisfied as an individual, you will have to meet a collective goal or move towards it as a team, as opposed to society, where we are constantly struggling not to be bothered by others and their needs. And play practices your ability to deal with spontaneity and surprise. You are dependent on other people's acts, or the other team, or wherever the ball might bounce. And this is as opposed to society, where we are trying not to be confronted with surprise, and when somebody does something we don't expect, we get annoyed or insecure. And where most of us do what is prescribed and planned or scheduled. I mean, just check your agenda or notebook. This is different in play. We need play in order for us to try new things, but also for society to have a chance of moving forward. To rethink and understand normal affairs in a different way, we need an artificial introduction of a moment of freedom, in a confrontation with possibility, a moment in which we are separated from normal life, and in which we can try and fail, try and succeed. And this needs to be a collective experience, whilst also gaining individual insight. And this individual insight is necessary in order to prevent a radical change from top down, but stimulate gradual progress from inside out. Therefore, I am introducing Confrontation Day. Once a month, we will nationally celebrate Confrontation Day. And on this day, we are confronted with stereotypes, and we will be confronted with the minorities that we statistically hold and the minorities we statistically view. We act and behave. We dress up. There you go. A week before Confrontation Day, you will receive a letter. And in that letter, your role will be announced. You might be, well, I don't know what this is, but you might be a woman, or you might be black, or you might be some sort of ethnic minority. We'll just do that with that. And there you go. Okay, you might be a Muslim. Let's see if I got it figured out. I think this goes with a woman. And there's the lesbian. You get tips and tricks. You get a behavior guide, a dress code. And in your preparation, you will have to, just like an actor, you will have to study your role. What do you wear? How do you talk? Whom do you hang out with? What are your beliefs? And of course, everything you will fill your role with will be some sort of stereotypical. I mean, look around me. But this is okay, because I think the good thing about Confrontation Day will be that in preparations, you will have to think. You will have to think about the stereotypes and the cultural expectations, the ones society views, the ones you view. And we will be uncomfortable in our new outfits, and in this uncomfortableness, we will be vulnerable. And this will be a fruitful vulnerability, because it will open our minds. You will think about another person, but you also think yourself into another person. On Confrontation Day, we get to really experience what it's like to be another person. We get to experience how other players treat us and how other players view you. We experience how you might be very much alike your role, or how you might be very different. But even if you are very different, it must mean that the person that's playing you finds you very different as well. And this makes you realize that who you naturally are is just a role play for someone else. So nonetheless how different you are, you can always play and reenact one another, meaning there's something shared, there's something overlapping. Namely, that identity is a complex construction, namely, that we are all homo ludens. Now, Confrontation Day must seem like a lot of hassle to you, but that's okay. At this moment, we might have a negative notion of freedom. Negative freedom, according to the philosopher Isaiah Berlin, is different from positive freedom in the sense that we view freedom as being free from restraints and other people's needs or desires and wishes and the way they want to lead their lives. Positive freedom, on the other hand, means that you need to be certain, that you need to do certain things, that you need to reach for certain goals or virtues in order to really feel free. And this positive freedom is a more communal and a more ambitious kind of freedom. And if the participative society, for example, that the Dutch government tries to transform us into now, wouldn't be just about budget cuts, then this participative society would, in a way, be part of this positive notion of freedom. And this positive notion goes with the idea that if you just reach for certain virtues, then you are a more fulfilled and enriched human being. And this is not just about an individual satisfaction, but about a collective benefit. Because like I said in the beginning, we live in a more safe society than ever, but it seems like people feel extremely anxious. We are not going to make society more safe. The rise of populism, populist politics, and the discontent amongst citizens won't be solved with numbers. The unknown will only grow when we turn our backs towards it. And it is in playing that we learn to deal with uncertainty and insecurity that is just part of life. I invite you to try on a costume. But if dressing up is not your thing, if you're shy, then I at least invite you to, every once in a while, try and dress up in your mind. Because culture is play, and every play needs participants, active players. Imagine yourself as another human being. Imagine yourself into another person. To free yourself from you and free others from being just that unknown other. Thank you.